right, we're back for another episode of Bad Ideas Podcast. I'm here with Ilyes Mashkour, a motivational speaker at Kiapso. How did I do with the name?
That
That
was your
close?
best one yet. That was good. Yeah, that was wonderful.
No, I was going to tell you a little story. So my family's last name is famously pronounced the wrong way. It's a
Hmm.
Greek last name. It's Petros, but we pronounce it Petros. And I
Hmm.
actually met a guy a couple of weeks ago whose first name is Petros, and he's from Greece. So it's kind of bizarre introducing myself with a bad pronunciation, but hopefully I can do justice for yours.
It was done wonderfully. Yeah. No, it's
Awesome.
interesting, right? As the world becomes smaller, that we really have to open up to all the different pronunciations and first names and last names. It's cool.
Yeah.
I
Is
struggle a
yours
lot
it?
with names.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
well, I
usually.
mean, I was going to say that the teams you're overseeing are probably huge, right? But I guess the common names in the Netherlands are probably pretty easy to get right.
Yeah, most of them are quite straightforward. So,
Yeah.
like for in my day job, there's not a lot of difficulty, but for the podcasting or some of the other things I'm doing, then you're suddenly met with different demographics, and that's when I struggle.
Yeah. Well, if you have 2 seconds, just kind of give us a rundown of your background. I'm like super excited to do this brainstorm with you because you've been in senior leadership at a couple places and you're moving on to another. So I'm sure you've seen a ton of horrible ideas on your own. So some of these reactions will be pretty good. And tell us a bit about you.
Yeah, so I've been in sustainability, if you can call that a sector, but I've been in sustainability for the past 10 years. Um, Really aimed at building a fairer world for each and every one of us, right? So justice and fairness are really at the center of what I do. And throughout my career so far, I'm 30 now. I've been doing that in a different couple of positions, either from a more of a challenge of how do we build more equal dialogues, or we speak with the people affected and not about the people affected. And more recently, I've been doing that in healthcare. Here in the Netherlands, healthcare is about 7% of our national CO2 emissions. So there's something really bad in the current business model of healthcare where we make people sick by curing them, but it's just different people. So the emissions are that high. So it's a waterproof business model, but one that has to change. And that's basically what I do. I have a podcast about Islam and sustainability because I really see a strong link between theology, morality, ethics, and the movements we have to make. And I move in between those.
That's amazing. It's front and center around the world, especially here in the U.S. too. So awesome to have someone in the thick of it, especially from the Netherlands, here to talk about some really bad ideas with me.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. So I
All
look
right.
forward to this.
Well, let's do this. So let's pull up the bad idea and see what we've got today. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
All right. So the bad idea for us is customized traffic lights. Individuals can customize the timing of traffic lights at intersections.
How do you guys come up with these? Do you just have a bucket or brainstorming sessions to come up with these ideas? Because
Yeah.
this one is horrible.
Yeah, I'm actually not involved in the brainstorming. I think we have an assistant who did a lot of research on Reddit. They're
Hmm.
actually like bad business ideas threads where we pull a lot of these from, and um,
Wow.
they grab a lot of those. Um, they'll grab them, put them into a main list, and then like run it through a chat GPT. So my
Okay.
team is like simultaneously researching and then spinning these up. But what's going to happen? So this one is from the team. What's going to happen after we get to 20 is our bad ideas are all going to be viewer submitted. So the website, as much as it's about the podcast, is actually allowing folks
Mm.
watching this to submit their own bad ideas, and we're going to try to respond to those. But this one is like I think from Reddit, so
Yeah.
people actually controlling traffic lights. What are your reactions?
If I put on my evil hat, I see so
Mm.
many options.
Oh, yeah.
I see so many options. It's like the worst kind of personalized ads, right? That's where you get people in this. You can totally have it like a capitalistic model where the haves do not have to wait at all, and the have-nots will always have to wait and watch ads. Um, there's so many opportunities for a premium traffic lights model here. So this is going to earn us a lot of money if we actually are able to roll this one out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking like, how do you deliver it? This is why I think it's a bad idea. If people can control the traffic light, all the traffic that they're causing gets in their way. So it's
Yeah.
kind of self-defeating, right?
No, it's impossible to deal with all those inputs at the same time, right? Because
Yeah,
how are you gonna ever uh, it's impossible. It's gonna be a disco at the traffic stops, at the
yeah,
intersections. It's no one will ever get through,
yeah.
let
And
alone emergency services, right? There is there an override button by emergency services, or will they just never get through as well?
yeah, yeah. I think you need an entirely separate traffic system for emergency services, so people can still
Yeah,
be taken care of. But
yeah.
also, I mean, who pays for this? Is it a state thing? Is your client the government, or are end users paying? Like, is it a bidding
Mm.
system where you're bidding? You know, the highest bidder gets to control the
Highest bidder
light.
gets the. This traffic stop is brought to you by, yeah.
Yeah.
Who pay?
Um,
No one will pay for this. Who wants the bad PR, right? So it's the amount of deaths caused by this.
oh
You know,
God.
you have a green and you're crossing the street, and then the next one also has a green, and that's a car or a bus and it's done.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and the you know the upkeep of those traffics is probably going to be high as well, with the lights flashing on and off that often, going from red to orange to green all the way back. I think after an X amount of flashes, they just go out.
There
So
you
the
go.
amount of maintenance we'll have to do on those traffic stops is crazy, and then no one will be able to get to them because it's too dangerous to get at that traffic.
So this is a pit, basically.
This will
It's
never.
dangerous. It's
Yeah,
unsustainable. It's hard to maintain. Um, you can't monetize it because who's actually paying for it? Who's
yeah,
taking responsibility for it because of the chaos it'll cause? Um,
yeah.
this might be our worst idea. Yeah, this is a pretty
Yeah,
bad
this
one.
one is impossible. This one
Yeah.
is impossible. And how are you gonna how is it controlled? Is there like an app? So are like millions or like tens of people at the same time pressing a button on the app to get their acquired
Yeah.
a moment? No, this
Yeah.
one is I'm not sure how bad the other ones were, but I don't see a way out of this one.
Yeah.
Um,
This is a tough one to make work. Yeah. Just to kind of pile on to why this is awful. If you have, hundreds of people at a light all trying to control the light at the same time, they're also paying attention to their app instead of where they're driving.
yeah,
So you have a combination of traffic and distracted drivers, which is probably not ideal.
that is no. And there and you know it might be doable in like a small town with a
Mhm.
couple of people crossing at the same time, but if you're looking at huge intersections in larger cities, you can never do it. It's
Mhm.
just too much input. It's how are you going to build a system that deals with all those requests at the same time, which are all
Mhm.
conflicting requests. So either there are huge queues, right? So everyone has to wait for their turn to cross, uh, or there's just everyone has like a millisecond of green, and then the other person has a green light. So in either way, it's not going to work.
Mhm. All right. My mind is starting to turn positive. I have an idea I want to run by
Or
you, like because I haven't thought about. I mean, you think big. You think about major impact with the companies you're working for, and it's actually kind of fitting that this is the one you and I are talking about because there's like major civil implications, um, beyond all the stupidity of it. But imagine more of like so you don't actually control the light, but you have input. It's almost like a real time. Um, a traffic light system that modifies itself in real time based on user input. So if a
Mhm.
ton of people are going in one direction and they're all flagging that they're going in that direction, the lights actually respond to kind of alleviate the major point of stress. But think about, this is one of the benefits of AI. Everyone calls it like intelligence, but it's really just processing tons of things at the same time, like lots and lots of simple decisions made in parallel,
Exactly.
and producing or predicting the best outcome because of that. But you think about traffic lights. If you have an entire traffic system, it's like the inverse of Google Maps. Google Maps tries to route you where the traffic isn't, but imagine if
Yeah.
the traffic lights responded to congestion in real time. So if there's a ton of congestion in one area, it starts allowing that through and monitoring congestion elsewhere. You probably solve a lot of traffic problems that way, don't you think?
Yeah. Yeah. I think our assumption so far is that the system is stupid. But if you could actually turn it into a smart system, right, which is connected with traffic within the city or with all the phones within that city, you could really predict traffic in a way you would know what is coming in. Almost in the same way that in some cities you can reserve car park ahead of time, so there's always parking available for you. You could almost let your entire route know that you're coming, and if enough people are doing that, then you could, in theory, have a really efficient system within your city. So that would be really beneficial. It would also help you make decisions about how you're traveling that day. So if people, especially if people let their travel arrangements be known ahead of time because they believe it will be advantageous for them, other people might make more sustainable decisions by choosing public transport or choosing walking or choosing a bike, because you're now really predicting ride sharing. Exactly. You're now predicting traffic ahead of time because you've created a system where there's a huge benefit for you to let the system know that you're coming, to let the traffic lights know that you're coming. Yeah.
Well, even ride sharing, you can consolidate travel, right? If you're going from A to B, it's no longer controlled by Uber, then you're participating in the system, that's a pretty good idea.
Then now we're cooking. Yeah. Yeah.
You're thinking, furthermore, your idea early was about like people paying not to see ads, and certain people having like utmost control over the light. But that just brought up, I don't know how it is in the Netherlands, but here in Boston, very, very rich state, but we have like the worst roads in the country, which doesn't entirely add up. Like given the tax revenue, we should at least be able to pave the roads. But this might be a good way to actually fund that infrastructure, where people pay into maybe there are tiers. There's like a premium tier, but people pay to increase the weight of their route. And then by default, the system starts prioritizing certain routes based on what's coming in. And, it's a good way to collect revenue. You're actually kind of realizing what routes are used the most and how important it is for the drivers to get through quickly. So you start, maintaining and funding itself based on its usage a little more directly. What do you think?
Yeah, but perhaps depending on your philosophy, whether that is a more equal or unequal output, you could give a whole new meaning to the fast lane, right? Not just in a theme park, but also within a city where you have a lane which is, which is more expensive, but you get to where you want to get quicker. Here in the Netherlands, we have amazing roads. To be honest, it's part of our taxes. So it would be extra revenue, I guess, for the municipality. Yeah, well, I think I'm looking at it in a different senses, where you, based perhaps also on the cost or on, let me rephrase that, based on the data that you get from all the traffic, you could really encourage people to either not travel or make it more expensive to travel within rush hour, and discourage people from traveling at certain times by making certain routes more expensive or certain times more expensive.
Well,
and in that way,
your point earlier, I thought was really interesting. Talking about how like some people, maybe there's a fast lane that you pay to be into, but think about this as like a rising tide lifts all ships type of thing. And
Mm-hmm.
Rather than punitive pricing, so it's more expensive to get access at a fast time. What if it's the sort of thing where people are paying more to have faster access to a certain area, but everyone else gets to use it too? It's literally just an indicator of my intent is to use this route.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, so we'll make that route faster, and everyone else who uses it enjoys the speed
Mm.
of that route. So it's just kind of like the feedback. I think what we're keying in on is controlling the traffic lights is dangerous, but giving
Yeah,
feedback into
yeah,
where you're going is very valuable.
definitely.
So maybe if we steer it that way, it really is something that benefits everybody, because you have folks maybe who aren't paying but can see,
Yeah,
where the faster routes are, who can just hop on and take advantage of those. Um, so everyone gets
yeah,
fast access to the areas people want to
to
be
there
in.
is.
You know?
Yeah. Does that work though? If everyone gets access, do people still pay? If it's like if there is a freemium version and a premium version, is that, or do you really want the distinction in there? Because if everyone has access, then I think you still have the same traffic problems.
Well, if you're paying to indicate that it's important to you financially to have
Mm,
fast access to a certain route, like it's
yeah.
kind of like your option. I'm commuting here, so this means a lot to me, so I'm going to pay.
Mm,
And
yeah.
then the system automatically starts prioritizing speed and access to those areas,
To those
but
areas.
everyone else
Yeah.
gets to use it too. So it's like
Mm,
if more people use it, it creates more congestion, and then more people wind up paying. Naturally, it's going to help like
yeah,
a broad
definitely.
number of people. It's
That's
like
what to a smaller extent, that's also what the app Waze does, right? Not so I prefer Waze over Google Maps because you have the crowdsourcing of information in there and it suggests a different route if there's a lot of congestion.
mhm,
Um, but almost if you were to integrate Waze and some of the traffic light information or the app within the same system, that
mhm,
then you could really realize what you're saying, where you have this uh, free version for everyone, but there's a paid version as well where you have priority access, perhaps,
mhm,
um, maybe even a couple of minutes of knowledge ahead of time, where Waze is able to steer you into the fastest route
mhm.
if it's connected to traffic lights as well.
Yeah, Waze is a fantastic app. I think Google bought them a couple years ago.
Google owns them right now. Yeah,
Yeah, so I think Google Maps data has Waze data incorporated. There's just no feedback loop.
there's no
Um,
feedback. Yeah.
how ironic, but that's really interesting. So you were thinking more like a subscription. So some people get access for free, others kind of pay into it, and therefore their preferences are weighted at a higher rate, something like that.
I, I think that's where my mind goes right now.
Hmm.
But I think I'm thinking from a business perspective, right? Because we're coming up with a good business idea, so
Hmm.
there has to be some revenue, and that's why I go to that um, perspective. There's just a huge downside, which is if you go through that to that perspective, you're really limiting access to cities uh,
Hmm.
based on socioeconomic class. So that is not
Hmm.
something I would want to do because now you're
Yeah.
restricting cities as well as areas, because parking costs are already a huge barrier for people to enter
Hmm.
or park in certain places. And if you're adding
Hmm.
traffic as well, so my mind goes there, but it would not be what I would do because I think
Hmm.
it's a bad idea.
Yeah. Well, think about we'll blow this back, a couple hundred years for the U.S., maybe a little longer for the Netherlands, but we'll blow this back to almost how cities were built initially, before central planning. Um, people just started congregating around markets. Like, here's a port. The port has a market because there's products there, so we'll start living here, and it overflows and overflows and overflows. But cities like New York come from major ports that supply a lot of resources and food to a lot of people. And the
Hmm.
bigger the port, the bigger the supply, the bigger the market, the bigger the community, and it just kind of grows that way. Or kind
Yeah.
of, but when you look at the traffic system, right, the reason why this bad idea was come up with in the first place, it's just assuming everything has the same. Like, this light will be 3 minutes no matter what. That light will be 3 minutes, even though there's one car there and 10,000 cars here. That doesn't really work. That creates a lot of congestion. So if if you start allowing the system to modify itself based on demand, almost in real time with something like this, then it really does benefit everybody. Because you talk about,
Yeah.
everyone wants to be in the city. The routes that are most popular and most in demand, people only pay when they really want to access those. So those become really nice, and they become really nice for everybody, even though they didn't necessarily pay for it.
Mm.
I think that's the best business, at least I see, is the business that the price is the closest possible to value.
Yeah.
So an example of that is like, you pay for your car when you drive the car off the lot generally. I mean, or you put a little teeny deposit down, but you properly pay for it and you get the car right away. You pay for your groceries right before you get your groceries. You pay for fast food right before you get fast food. Things where you have to pay a lot up front before the value comes in, like service businesses, I think are harder to scale because people need a lot of vision and imagination to get there.
Yeah.
And that's where I think an idea like this makes a huge difference, because you don't really need to lock people into contracts or a subscription like we were talking about, because everyone's going to use the roads, right?
Yeah.
What we're really doing is creating a way for them to throw a couple dollars down when they really need to get someplace fast, and that feedback is enough to fund the road, make it super fast,
Yeah.
and allow the best routes and the highest traffic routes to properly get the fastest volume permitted through them. Does that make sense?
I think so. I
Mm.
think so. I think I'm struggling with the idea of if I'm paying to get somewhere really fast and therefore getting priority access, but everyone else gets the same access. Am I still getting priority access? Won't that place be congested?
I think we remove priority all together. So all you're
Mm.
doing, like, you're paying for a vote effectively. You're paying to say make
Yeah,
this
you're paying
faster.
for your flow to have an increased. Yeah, okay. No,
So if enough people pay, there's a lot of money here. Okay, we got to make this faster, and
it's
everybody
almost
gets to benefit.
it becomes almost like a bidding system, like which traffic light wins the bid, right?
Yeah, but just like cities, it's the same mechanism without tech. Like a city, if more
Yeah,
people move to an area, the area has more tax revenue,
has
and
more text.
they're,
Exactly.
they're
Yeah,
voting by saying, I want to be here. We're just incorporating that plus a little tech into traffic lights.
yeah,
What do you think?
yeah. Well, I'm thinking if, for example, if it rains and you have to walk, would that mean that people walking or in bad weather, that people walking could influence the traffics in their favor as well, and therefore not having to wait as long
Why
in the
not? Why
right?
not?
And then it almost becomes democratic
Yeah, literally
for
proper
you to
real-time democracy.
like a real-time democracy every time.
Hmm.
Yeah, it would be an amazing experiment, right? To see what happens. We would have to do it to a couple of traffic lights in the beginning and study those, and then, if possible, increase that system and grow the system.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, there's a lot of benefit there to increase flow of
Hmm.
traffic throughout the city, and I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think particularly in your area, when we talk about sustainability, like, inefficiency is way too profitable right now in so many areas. Like,
yeah,
you make a lot of money by restricting flow or access to certain things, so you can charge a premium for it. But
hmm
you can have things that are equally profitable and more sustainable, by moving the pricing closer to value and delivering the value a little faster.
yeah,
And I think that's kind of what we're scratching the surface of here. Like, we allow the most in-demand places to move faster. We're probably cutting emissions in a crazy amount by decreasing the amount of traffic, because you don't have to
exactly.
wait if you're the priority route.
Yeah,
Um,
as well as people, because I think there's some research about how much money is lost because of all the time that people are in traffic,
yeah,
right? It's millions
staggering.
because people are arriving late, people are it's billions probably.
Mm,
So if you can address if you can reduce that by a couple of percents, you're really increasing value as well.
mm.
In a way, we're
So,
also advocating for public transport, right? Because we're like, because we're like, if we can make the flow more efficient, and if we can, yeah, then some of our goals would be reached by getting, eliminating many of the cars from the streets, and getting people on trains and perhaps that it would be nice if that is like a side effect of this feature on the traffic
yeah,
stops.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if enough people are paying to go down a certain route, it indicates that this area is highly trafficked, and that's where you concentrate your development of public transport too.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, Look at this. So if I kind of summarize where we're going with this, we're talking, well, we took a ridiculous idea, which is just rawly giving people control over traffic lights, which is really bad for health, for emissions, for stress levels, pretty much all of the above. And what
Yeah.
we're getting to is that by introducing feedback loops, so we know what people actually want in real time, we can take something as seemingly inevitable as traffic and turn it into a whole lot of value that lifts everybody up in the long run. Is that
Yeah.
kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah. I think that's where we've reached, where we've come out to. Yeah. I'm not sure if I think the main benefit from our current train of thought is the fact that you're getting travel information from people ahead of time, and
Yeah.
that's where the benefit is creating an incentive for people to really let us know ahead of where you're going and how you're traveling, so we can give you the best route.
Mhm.
And perhaps even scheduling it ahead so that we know a day beforehand where you're going,
Mhm.
or so it's about the predictability of the flow of traffic.
Mhm.
And then within that predictability, you can introduce a paid model as well.
Mhm. This is cool. I like it. We take something really silly and we turned it
Yeah, this
into an
is
idea that
surprising.
could solve a real
Yeah.
problem. And so that's the next mission. Once this one publishes, I'll start sending it to local representatives and be like,
Right.
"Hey, this needs to happen." We'll
Well,
find a way to collect royalties on whatever it does too.
please, yeah.
Uh,
Or just name a road after me. That would be fine. This
yeah.
is yeah.
The main highway, it's called 93 here in Boston. It's the worst highway ever.
Oh
Probably
yeah, you
one of the
guys
worst highways in the country. It's so
really?
bad. It's so
Wow.
bad.
In terms of the road quality or the traffic?
Both. In the
Okay.
road quality is awful. Traffic from 3 to 7 p.m. every single day is parking lot.
Wow.
It's bad. But I mean, it's a demand problem. Everyone wants to be here, so that they're
Mm,
all on the road.
they're all on the
Um,
road. Yeah.
but I wonder if we could
But
fix it.
people don't learn, do they? Because they're all on the road day after day after day, even though the traffic is just always bad.
Hmm.
Are there no alternatives, or is
There's
it
great
just
public
culture?
transit in the city proper, but off the highway, yeah, I mean, you have commuter rails, but the magnitude of people moving on the highway is so far beyond. Um, so that's something where, like, if you had a feedback loop, if the volume of traffic waiting could change the pace of the lights, um,
Yeah,
that's really interesting. That's something with a lot of value behind it.
yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
Well, cool. Thank you so much for joining this one. This definitely, I think this is the worst bad idea we've had so far. Um, this is a really, really hard one and super dangerous. But I think we talked about some big things. I mean, traffic affects
Yeah,
billions of people all over the world, and I wonder if anyone's working on something like this, some kind of AI feedback loop to actually index it to traffic usage. Um, we're on to something.
we are. Yeah, we should call Elon Musk. Introduce this
Yeah, right.
into the self-driving system.
It's in
Is
his
that?
plan, I'm sure.
I'm pretty
It's in
sure
his
it
plan.
is.
Well,
Yeah.
cool.
Thanks
Well, yes,
so
thank
much,
you so
Nick. This was a
much.
pleasure.
Yeah, this is fantastic. We'll do this again super soon.
Yeah, please do.